After UFC 202, Nate Diaz will not be taking fights unless they fall under two categories: big money or big opponent. Nate Diaz had this to say in relation to his tenure in the UFC, and at least in regards to going forward. If I'm going to get a big payday or going to have a big fight, then I'll fight. If not, I'm not going to fucking around no more. I think he said fucking around no more. I think he said that. The expletive isn't there, but Fox Sports wouldn't run it, but that's okay. Understandably so, because he's...
Nate Diaz.
Well, it's funny because he was on ESPN. ESPN loves the Diaz brothers. They do. And they had Nick and Nate on separately, on separate occasions. And they both were told not to curse, and they couldn't go, like, one full clip without it. And then they started laughing, and they didn't realize that they even cursed. And I think it was just Jason Whitlock. It's like the all takes matter. Is that Fox Sports, though, Dan? That's Fox Sports. All takes matter. One of the two, Fox Sports, ESPN, the mainstream sports news sites had him on. You can't curse on TV, or at least you can't say fuck on TV, but you can say it on TYT Sports. So the Diaz brothers are more than welcome to come on TYT Sports and talk any which way they please.
Nick Diaz was actually on ESPN, I remember that, and he was asked about his future fights, and he wasn't as open, let's just say, as what he usually was, and then there was an interview on TMZ. He was walking around with his phone by a pole, I'm fucking fighting nobody unless they want to fight me. So, but as for this, how is this even news? Like, we know this. Nate Diaz is done jumping through hoops for the UFC.
What a lot of people don't understand is that Nate Diaz and both the Diaz brothers, in general, they don't get big money. They get big fights. They get put on a poster. They get told to promote, and then they don't see even close to a fair share of money. Not even close to it. I mean, there's a story that ran not too long ago that when Nate Diaz thought he was rich and found out he wasn't, he was going to buy either his mother or himself or a friend a car. He goes down to the dealership, and he wants to get a Lambo or a Ferrari or a Maserati, and all he could afford because he found out the hard way that you don't get paid in one lump sum payment. He can get a Honda Civic. So he got a Honda Civic. Nothing wrong with Honda Civics, by the way, as Neil Brennan would tell you, comedian.
Save cars.
Dave Chappelle's, one half of Dave Chappelle's show, the Chappelle Show from years ago, is it's first in class every single year, grade A, like the missionary sex position.
Oh, Dave Chappelle from Blue Streak?
Yes, Dave Chappelle from Blue Streak.
But, okay, so prepare yourself, Jason, for the influx of hate. But the bottom line is,
what
right,
hate?
I don't care. We've already decided we don't care. They're going to pick us apart for UFC coverage either way. But the bottom line is, Nate Diaz, again, yeah, he's been on big cards before. He's always the fighter that is going to be, he's going to take a fight. He's going to be a warrior in there. But what has happened recently that has changed things so that Nate Diaz now has the opportunity to pick and choose who he wants to fight is that he beat Conor McGregor, right? So Conor McGregor changed things up in the UFC, was a big name that was able to talk the talk, and at that point was walking the walk, filling the seats, selling the pay-per-views, making a name for himself. Nate Diaz came out of nowhere as the guy, and not out of nowhere because we knew of him, but in the realm of Conor McGregor's sphere, he called him out, then was given the opportunity. He took it with both hands on very short notice, won the fight. That immediately puts him way beyond what he even would have expected and what other UFC fans, no matter how much of a fan you are of Nate Diaz, would admit that the fact is that he, by winning that fight, suddenly put himself, not in terms of deserving the fights, but actually getting them because Dana White saw dollar signs. He saw Nate Diaz as the counterpart to Conor McGregor's mouthy, cocky side. This is someone that came in and shut him up. That immediately puts Nate Diaz forward as even more so of a character. Not to the people that already know him. Let me get this across. But the people outside of the kind of the sphere, the general fans that liked him. Yeah, they went, you know what? This guy came in, didn't even train as much for the fight, and he put McGregor to the canvas. I'm going to focus on him now. And immediately he becomes more of an entity to the UFC. Therefore, he can put that forward.
Look what's happened with the Diaz brothers alone. First of all, Nick Diaz gets to piggyback off of Nate Diaz's recent success alone because once his suspension was up, he gets an ESPN interview. He's sitting in the biggest sports network studio with a 10-minute segment, and he curses. Like, that might not happen if it wasn't for Nate Diaz's success. Might not. Can't promise you anything, but it might not have. On top of that, look at what's happened look what could happen after this is what I'm trying to say, because if he beats McGregor again, you have to give Nate Diaz a title fight.
Yes.
You have to, but it doesn't end there. You can't just give Nate Diaz a title fight and say, here's your $10,000 payday, while enter what Brock Lesnar-esque name. I understand. I'm just making the point that Brock Lesnar made, what, $1.5 million compared to Mark Hunt's $200,000?
Yep.
Right, the disparity in pay. Whoever Nate Diaz were to fight in that next situation, given that nobody can hold on to a belt besides Demetrius Johnson, which I love the comment section rips me apart for, even though I mentioned it 3 times in the clip. Yes, Demetrius Johnson can keep his belt. He's the only one. Everybody else, it's like a 2 or 3 fight streak that gets snapped. So who knows? Between after UFC 202 and next fight after that, you have to give him the payday. Because he deserves the payday, given the fact that he's a guy, win or lose. The Diaz brothers are always going to be in the headlines because they're very controversial. So whether Dana White likes the Diaz brothers or doesn't like the Diaz brothers, he's got to throw them a suitcase full of cash.
But the thing is, which people will say, which I agree with, is that Nate Diaz hasn't changed. He's always been this way. But
no, he actually hasn't changed.
The difference is that there was no one there to kind of be that counterpart, right? So he would be fighting Cowboy Cerrone. Yeah.
He wouldn't have a rival.
Cowboy Cerrone, yeah, with a few woo-has and whatever else, is an interesting fighter. Nate Diaz puts him down. And again, it's like he doesn't get the respect he deserves because as both of them combining, it's not a card that's going to break the mega headlines. It's not going to break the blockbuster in terms of the fact that people are going to come in to see it. Whereas when you combine a cocky figure like Conor McGregor, who was talking the talk quite a lot, and then Nate Diaz comes in and silences that talk for that moment being and puts him to the canvas, then suddenly that controversial side of Nate Diaz becomes more marketable. From a business side,
right.
It becomes more marketable because it's like, not only is he going to be controversial, he's not going to take shit from anyone. And he's proven, again, time and time again, he has already proven that he is a phenomenal fighter within the octagon. But then he proves that on the biggest stage to someone who is shouting from the rooftops that he's the best, he puts him to the sword. That, therefore, pushes him up in value, not as a fighter, but as a business prospect. That's what the two need to be differentiated, because people think that if we say that Nate Diaz beats Conor McGregor and goes to the next level, people will be like, oh, he's always been a great fighter. I'm not talking about fighting. I'm talking about from money. From big money fights. You need to be making the money consistently. You need to be selling the seats, selling the pay-per-views, whatever else, so that Dana White then looks at you at the top of the list. It's a skewed system.
It's like a film industry. It's about the money.
Yeah. So
not the creativity. It's about the money.
So this isn't breaking news to me. The guy, I think, win or lose, still gets to choose because he's already made that name.
No. If he loses to Conor McGregor, Dana White's gonna tuck him into the back of the card deck, whatever you want to call it. Put him in the closet, throw him somewhere where he can hide for a little bit, because if he loses to Conor McGregor, he puts himself in the exact same position he kind of was, a guy who's not after championships, which he said before he's not. I think it would be, by the way, I think the funniest thing that Nate Diaz could do is if Dana White offers him a title fight and he just says no.
I think that would stay true to Nate Diaz. The only thing is,
very true to Nate Diaz.
The only difference that I disagree is
is
if Nate Diaz lost the fight and Conor McGregor was to remain in that weight class, then yeah, potentially
there will be a third fight.
But I think either there will be a third fight or McGregor will move somewhere else. He'll feel like his job's done, even though it might not be because of one fight lost and one fight won. He'll move on.
No, his job wouldn't even be close to done.
I'm not saying it would have been Conor McGregor wouldn't feel.
He's not fighting. He wants the belts.
McGregor won't feel like he needs to stay there.
I feel like he would keep fighting until he got a shot at a championship if he were to win, because he doesn't. I don't think it's a Nate Diaz problem. It's he wants to get the belt and then dip.
But then he would probably need to drop some weight to fight maybe a Dos Anjos. But Dos Anjos has lost his belt, so then it's going to be like, where does McGregor go to get it?
Stay in the same class until you get your belt or a shot at your belt, a belt.
I don't know if McGregor stays put. I think he likes to keep moving. I mean, it's interesting.
I would like him get up to heavyweight.
Fight. Well, I was going to say fight Robbie Lawler, but he just lost to Tyron Woodley, so he's going to go and fight Tyron Woodley.
I would like him to get up to like what Bellator has, just like those like max heavyweights, those like 265 pounds. Just fat McGregor rolling into the octagon.
Oh my God! All right, let us know what you think in the comment section below. Are you surprised by Nate Diaz's comments? Do you think Nate Diaz has got to the point now where he gets to pick and choose the fights that he gets? Would you be sad to see Nate Diaz not fight again? after McGregor's fight if he decided to just say,
Yeah, what if he just,
you know what?
Yeah, what if he doesn't fight again?
It wouldn't surprise me. Hit us in the comments. JasonRubin91 on Twitter, Francis_Maxwell, and we'll see you guys very soon.